The pandemic of 2020 created an environment where many people were encouraged to work from home. And as a result, many people got used to working from home. I mean, doesn't it feel good to be able to wake up, log into an online platform, do your work on your own pace, maybe take a longer lunch than you normally could, maybe take a longer break than you normally could, hell, maybe even run some errands, come back, finish your job, and turn it in. I've known people that have had scenarios to where they didn't necessarily have to work certain hours. They just had to get work done. And what it did was it created a lot of freedom for them personally to where, they could be like, hey, man, I'm going to do my work tonight at 10 to 12. And as long as I get my projects turned in before a particular date, my employer really doesn't care when I do the work. And that setup worked for a lot of people. It really gave people a sense of empowerment. It allowed them to own their own work. It allowed them to own their own schedule. It gave them a sense of freedom because they were able to kind of do things on their own schedule and on their own pace. And many people believe that this was going to be the new future of this type of work experience. Historically, you had to drive to an office. You had to clock in. You had to work whatever schedule they told you to work. You had to take lunch when they told you to take lunch. This is how the American worker, even on a professional level, has been socialized to think how the workplace experience is supposed to work. So many people are very enthusiastic and very optimistic that we're going to go into a new world of employment. However, what we're seeing now is that the capitalist class, right, the billionaire capitalist class to be exact, they're really pushing to get the status quo back. And what is that? We want you to come back into the office. We want you to come back to work. And I believe that one of the reasons of that is because when you work for somebody, especially in our traditional American system, for the most part, for most people, regardless of how much money you get paid, regardless of your educational level, there's an implicit contract a lot of times between the person that you're working for and the employee. And that contract really is that they control your time because they pay you. And therefore, if they're going to pay you $100,000 a year, they want to control your time. One of the things I think that many people are confused about, and that's because they haven't probably been exposed to it, is in most workplace situations, once you get over a certain dollar amount, whether that's salary or whether it's just getting paid by the hour, that job is going to require a lot of your time. And I think because the majority of the country doesn't make even over $50,000 a year, they have this perception that, there's a person making $125,000 a year and they're only working 40 hours a week. It doesn't work that way. Right? It just doesn't work that way. Whether you're doing long distance trucking, whether you're working in law enforcement and you're getting a lot of overtime, which means those are hours that you're spending. If you're working in sales, you're working in the medical space, very few people are making north of really $60,000, $70,000 a year. And their job is only asking them to work 40 hours a week. It normally doesn't work that way. I know a woman that's from my neighborhood. She and her husband make a lot of money. She's a lead anesthesiologist for a hospital up north, right? So she's the lead, hope I pronounce this right, anesthesiologist, if I pronounced that incorrectly, for a hospital up north, right? She works in excess of maybe 50 hours a week. She makes over $250,000 a year, makes a lot of money. She spends a lot of time working. Her husband makes a lot of money in his field, spends a lot of time working. They make a lot of money. They work a lot of hours. And I just think people have this perception that somebody's going to pay you a lot of money and you're going to just do 40 hours a week and they're going to be cool with that. No, normally, the more money you make on a job, the more they require from you from time. And that's just how this particular dynamic is set up. It's a power dynamic. They want your time for the money that they're paying you. People that work in retail management, you can go to retail with a high school diploma. You can make $60,000, $70,000 a year. You're going to have to live inside that store. I know a woman in Georgia. She was working for the largest retailer inside the United States. She had worked there for 10 years. She was making north of $60,000 a year. She would come to work 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. She would sometimes leave that job at 11 o'clock at night. And that's just how it was. You put in for a vacation. They may tell you, no, you can't take your vacation right now because this is our busy season. We need you to work. It don't matter that you put your vacation in 6 months ago. It is what it is. They want your time. They're going to pay you, but they want all your time. You have to invest your time into this business to get the money that we're paying you out. You understand me? And I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. So what we're seeing now is we're seeing a little bit of resistance to this movement of everybody being able to just sit back in their house and make money, and the job not requiring them to report to work. Because historically, the job was about you reporting to work, regardless of even your profession or, your educational background. They wanted you to report at their job. And so here's an article from Fortune, right? And it talks about that fed up managers declare that work from home is over, as 77% say they fire you or cut your pay for not coming back to the office. And they did a survey of 3,500 American managers. It's a company called Good Hire. And about 77% of them said they'd be willing to implement severe consequences, including firing workers or cutting pay and benefits on those who refuse to return to the office, right? Although many surveys have shown that the majority of workers prefer remote and hybrid work structures, most managers believe that in-person work is best. And one of the reasons is because they want to look at you. They want to see what you're doing. Okay. And here's something I think that is going to be really, really important as we start to go into this new economic environment that we're going into end of this year, going into 2023. You know, the guy that had the issue with his coach down there in Miami, named Stephen Ross, the billionaire, big real estate guy. His attitude was that if we get a recession, that'll bring people back into the office. And it shows that nationally, U.S. office occupancy rates are hovering around 44%, based on access card data gathered by a security tech firm called Castle Systems. Mr. Ross says that I think as you go into a recession and people fear they might not have a job, that's going to bring people back into the office. And employers will realize as we go into a recession or as things get a little tighter, that you're going to have to do what it takes to keep your job, and you're going to have to do what it takes to earn a living. And this is very similar to what Musk came out and talked about maybe 2 weeks ago. And he told his employees that return to the office at 40 hours a week or quit. Right? He said that at Tesla, if you're not an extremely high performer, you don't deserve to work from home. Right? And so his attitude is that you need to do 40 hours here and then think about working from home. And you got to be a high performer. Now, Musk is supposed to be Mr. Technology, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, he wants you coming to the Tesla offices to work. And I want you to really understand part of the contract between labor and the employer, but especially the billionaire capitalist class, is they want to control your time. And this is something I've been really trying to get people to understand, is that your time is what's most important, right? They make money in a factory the same way they make bread. You've been conditioned to believe that money's more important than your time because you don't know how to make money unless you interface these type of people. And there's nothing wrong working a job if that's what you like to do. And there's nothing wrong working a job if that's what you want to do. Some people don't want to do their own thing, and I'm cool with that. It takes all different types of people to function in this economy. But one of the falsehoods that we've been kind of socializing and believing is because of the controls on money and because people don't really understand how to really make money on their own, they believe money is scarce. Therefore, they have to sacrifice what is really most important and most valuable, which is their time, to somebody else to make money. And that's kind of how they keep that power dynamic over the top of you. They don't want you to have your time and make money, not their money. So their attitude is that you got to sacrifice your time at the altar to get my money, right? And that's just how the power dynamic works. And like I said, if it works for you, I'm for it. I don't down people because they work a 9 to 5. We need people working jobs because if you got a business, you need somebody to work for you. So everybody needs somebody to work a job. However, you just want to always consider when labor and employer starts trying to take back what is really most important, which is their time. You're starting to see a kickback from the billionaire capitalist class. Why? Because they understand that's what's most important. And they want to control what's most important for really something they can make inside a factory, right? It's way easier to make money than it is to make Bitcoin. It's easy to make money. It's much harder to make Bitcoin. You got to solve, calculations, things of that nature. Therefore, they control the money supply. You don't necessarily know how to tap into the money supply, how to tap into revenue streams. Therefore, you have to sacrifice your time at the altar to get those things to support yourself in this economy. So the question we want to ask ourselves is working from home over? Is it pretty much done for the majority of people? Or will the billionaire capitalist class decide to negotiate to where, well, maybe you could work from home 2 days a week and then come in 3 days a week, right? However, in my opinion, what we're going to see is that people are going to have to return to work, because part of working for somebody is accepting the fact that they have control over your time. And you just got to accept that to make the money. And you can work for somebody for a certain amount of time and go do your own thing. But while you're working for them, they want to control your time. And that's just how the dynamic works. And it doesn't matter how much money they pay you. They want to control your time. It doesn't matter how qualified you are, what certifications you got, where you went to school at, how much education you got. They want to control your time. And it's just something that you need to consider as we move into this new economy. And if there is a recession and people get laid off, people will come back to work, because they're going to be so fearful that they're going to lose a little bit of job that they have, that they're not going to want to risk it. David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, I'll talk to you later.